That's Madison Blair and that's Madison Bosa, and today we are presenting Does Bitcoin have a positive or negative effect on illegal activity?
Before we can address the question, we first have to understand what a Bitcoin is. So Bitcoin is defined as an e-currency that is decentralized and anonymous, which basically means that it's a currency used online that has nowhere to trace it back to. And the way that it works is it's commonly used on the dark web, and it's most widespread throughout North America and Europe, but China also has a very large market. And Bitcoin is considered all a currency, property, and illegal depending on where you live.
So our thesis is to mitigate the effects of Bitcoin on illicit marketing. The best solution is to simply do nothing due to less transaction costs, market monopoly, and lost businesses.
Bitcoin and the political/historical lens. To understand this lens, one must look at lost money, failure of other online currencies, and governmental rejection. First, lost money. In the case of the Bitcoin exchange Mt. Gox, 25,000 Bitcoins were stolen from each of 478 accounts. To save you a little bit of mental math, this is about 11.95 million Bitcoins. Now this is just one example. From most of the Bitcoin exchanges or accounts, 12.5 million Bitcoins were stolen, which is currently worth over 67 billion US dollars today. Next, the failure of other online currencies. Beans was an online currency that was launched in 1998 and shut down in 2001 due to the failure of gaining trust from its customers and the government. Also, another online currency called eGold was founded in 1996 and shut down in 2008 due to money laundering. It can be concluded that from these other online currencies, Bitcoin is headed towards or is being used for illicit purposes because e-currencies are generally misused and untrusted. Last, governmental rejection. From these maps, courtesy of Google, you can see Bolivia, China, and Russia. Bolivia has banned the use of Bitcoin and other decentralized currency. Russia is considering passing a similar ban. And finally, China prohibited its financial institutions from handling currency from Bitcoin transactions and has recently banned fundraising for new digital currencies.
So Bitcoin's impact on society and culture impacts it a lot, and vice versa. So first, this is a graph from an Italian university where this red line represents tweets using the term @Bitcoin or #Bitcoin, and this blue line is the price of the Bitcoin on that day in the market. So as you can see, the way that the market fluctuates is quite frequently, and it fluctuates basically along with this red line of tweets. So the way that the Bitcoin market actually works is it has a direct correlation with how many times the term is used on the surface web. So the more that we mention it, the more that it's worth. And then it's also, like I said before, it's commonly used on the deep web, or on the dark web, sorry, where websites such as the Silk Road, which is considered the eBay of illicit drugs,
Megan Cox to the front office. Megan Cox to the front office.
allow them to be used for illegal reasons such as murder for hire, weaponry, drug, and other illegal substance trade.
And according to Coinex Price Index, Bitcoin's price is decreasing from 2013. Bitcoin's permanent records of transaction are growing at a geometric rate of 21,000 blocks in approximately 4 years. The value of Bitcoin will experience deflation when it approaches to this number. So this blue line shows Bitcoin's monetary base, and as the monetary base increases, the rate of inflation goes down. In addition, Bitcoin has a low transaction cost that draws more people into the market. Low transaction cost increases the probability of individuals falling into fraud or digital thefts.
To understand how Bitcoin will be impacted in the future, you need to understand the absolute importance of this natural monopoly. First, Bitcoins need to be created, and they're created and given out in sort of a raffle based on how strong your computer is. If you have 50% of the computing power, you have a 50% chance of getting a Bitcoin. And all these individual competitive mining groups and or people all try to get the Bitcoin out of this raffle. And wouldn't it make it easier if every single one of them joined a group and when they got the Bitcoin, they just split it amongst themselves? That is what is promised. This monopoly is going to kill the Bitcoin industry. If there's no competition to get money, then everybody would just be getting money all the time and the currency's value would decrease. Which brings us to the transaction costs and how it becomes unfeasible after a time. Even though it costs very little money to input money, take it out, trade amongst users, it becomes worthless when a 1% goes up against a 99. That brings us to our first solution. Simply do nothing. If this is supported by all of the lenses, as you previously heard, especially by the futuristic lens stating that the monopoly will kill the market, as well as the historical lens saying that these e-currencies are doomed to fail.
So essentially all we have to do is let the market crash naturally, which has a very extended time frame, and we really have no control over what will be happening in the market because we're really just letting it destroy itself. But this is a good thing because it will permanently destroy the market globally, not just in the US.
Our second solution, however, is to ban the word Bitcoin or its term on the surface web in the United States. This is semi-supported by the lenses, but as seen in the social political lens, social cultural lens, that the more it's talked about on the news, the more that it's brought up on the internet, the more likely it is to gain money and stability. So when time passes and it gets more and more and more popular, the market will not crash.
So this one would be slightly more difficult to actually carry out because we have to worry about the First Amendment freedom of speech, worrying if the law that will pass to ban Bitcoin on the surface web will violate that amendment. And then the limitations are that it can only be done in the US, really. The global market will still be alive and most likely thriving. And then funding it and policing this law will also be very difficult because the surface web is very vast, so we can't exactly put a term and ban it and then make sure that it goes all the way through.
In conclusion, to mitigate the effects of Bitcoin on illicit trade, the best solution is to simply do nothing due to useless transaction costs, market monopoly, and lost business.
And these are our citations.
Very good. Thank you, guys. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go straight into your oral defense questions. Ayumi, I'm going to start with you if that's okay. Can you tell us, Ayumi, how the content of the group was changed after discussion?
So our initial research question was, does Bitcoin and its role in illicit trade have a positive or negative effect on our non-virtual world? And as a result of our group discussion, all lenses agreed that there were more negative effects to the world than positive effects, and we decided to address the negative aspects of in each lens and gather that and propose the best solution.
Very good. Thank you. Maya, can you tell us how you decided to integrate Madison Blair's lens into the overall presentation?
So Madison Blair's lens was social and cultural, and we decided to integrate this through like how it affected the illegal trade and like how it affected the people socially. So like we found out that Bitcoins like actually are used on the dark web and are used for illegal trade.
Okay, thank you. Madison Blair, what is the strongest counter argument to your team's solution?
The strongest counter argument is that there's really no guaranteed result because we ended up choosing solution one in that we're not going to do anything because we can't monitor it or change anything that's happening. It's all going to occur naturally, meaning that it may take a very extended time and not really have any guaranteed result.
Very good. And Madison Bosa, how did you improve your ability to work as a group as a result of this project?
I think that we worked pretty independently at first. It was kind of like get your own information, do your own work, and we kind of figured out that didn't really work the best when you're trying to do like a group PowerPoint, and it was hard to like individually put things together and then try to make it go together as a whole. And so I think that I learned that you need to start being like a team from the beginning, that you can't just wait to come together.
Very good. Thank you guys so much.